Can a single sudden departure reshape the balance of power inside Washington and across global conflict zones? Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Commute Commentary, where we look past the narrative to cut through regional bias. Today, we are diving into the sudden passing of Senator Lindsey Graham and the sweeping geopolitical ripples it leaves behind.
Thanks for having me back. This is it's really a monumental shift we're looking at today.
It really is. And I want to set the scene for you, the listener, because the timeline here is it's staggering. Thursday, Lindsey Graham turns 71.
Right.
Then Friday, he's literally on the ground in Kyiv, actively brokering this massive geopolitical sanctions deal. He's even joking with reporters about his own immortality.
Yeah, that quote is going to be remembered for a long time.
Exactly. But then by Saturday night, he's gone. So if you're looking at the news today and wondering why the U.S. stance on NATO or the war in Ukraine or the Middle East suddenly feels incredibly unpredictable, this vacant Senate seat is exactly why.
It is the epicenter of the uncertainty right now.
It's like I was thinking about it, like a catastrophic structural failure in a deeply rooted building. You know, outwardly, everything looked completely solid, but underneath, this key load-bearing pillar just vanished in an instant, and it created this massive sinkhole right in the center of the political landscape.
That is a really accurate way to picture it, honestly. The sheer velocity of that structural failure is what has Washington so paralyzed right now. I mean, there was no protracted illness.
No transition period.
None. Absolutely zero public indication that his health was in any jeopardy. Like you said, he was literally in the middle of a high-stakes diplomatic mission.
So what actually happened on Saturday? He was back in D.C., right?
Yeah, Saturday, July 11th, 2026. He was back at his home in Capitol Hill. And according to the medical and emergency response reports we have, a call came in at roughly 8:30 p.m. for a person experiencing severe chest pains, and it moved incredibly fast. About 25 minutes later, dispatch audio confirmed CPR was in progress, and he had already gone into full cardiac arrest.
And the preliminary medical reports that came out afterward point to an aortic dissection, right? Which, I mean, when I first read that, it sounded like dense medical jargon.
It does sound technical, yeah.
But when you break it down, it's actually this terrifyingly fast mechanical failure of the body.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, think of the aorta like a high-pressure fire hose coming directly out of the heart, carrying blood to the rest of the body.
Okay, a fire hose, right.
Over years, you can develop a condition called arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease, which is basically just a hardening and weakening of the arteries. It makes that hose stiff and brittle.
Got it.
So an aortic dissection happens when the inner lining of that highly pressurized hose suddenly rips, and then blood just rapidly forces its way into the tear, separating the layers of the artery wall.
Jeez. That sounds catastrophic.
It is. It's an event that happens in a split second. And that is precisely why a man can be actively negotiating international sanctions one afternoon and then be gone just hours later.
Which makes that quote from Friday in Kyiv so incredibly eerie in hindsight.
It really does.
He was standing there having just returned from meeting with Ukrainian leadership, and he literally quipped to reporters, "I can't die now. I still need to do the Russia sanctions, get Iran sorted out, and do Israeli-Saudi normalization."
It's chilling, honestly. But if you look past this sort of dark irony of the timing, that quote is actually the perfect skeleton key for understanding his psychology.
How so?
Where he genuinely viewed himself as indispensable to these massive generational global shifts. He didn't see himself as just, a participant in foreign policy. He saw himself as the primary architect.
Right. He was the guy making the gears turn.
Exactly. And to really grasp why his sudden absence leaves such a vast crater, we have to look at where that immense drive for survival and control came from, because his origin story is the absolute opposite of the polished Ivy League Washington pedigree we're so used to seeing.
Oh, completely. I mean, for those who don't know, he grew up in central South Carolina. Back then, it was this tiny textile mill town, barely 1,000 residents.
Very small town.
Right. And he lived with his family in a single room situated right behind the businesses his parents ran, which were a liquor store, a restaurant, and a pool hall.
That alone gives you a completely different perspective on the world.
Absolutely. But then in his early 20s, he faces this unimaginable tragedy. Both of his parents pass away within a very short time frame.
Right. He was abruptly left to navigate the world completely alone. But, and this is the crucial detail here, he wasn't just navigating it for himself.
Right. His sister.
Yeah. He took on the massive legal and emotional responsibility of adopting and raising his 13-year-old sister, Darline. I mean, he's barely an adult himself. He's running a liquor store, managing his own grief, and raising a teenager.
It's an insane amount of pressure. And yet, despite all of that, he pushes through to become the very first person in his entire family to attend college, earning both his undergraduate and law degrees from the University of South Carolina.
He fought tooth and nail to survive those early years.
He really did. And that raw instinct for survival, that ability to adapt to sudden, catastrophic shifts in his environment, never left him. He takes that gritty resilience straight into a military career. Which actually brings up a fascinating piece of trivia. I have a question for our audience. Do you know which specific branch of the U.S. military Senator Lindsey Graham served in as a legal officer before his political career? If you know the answer, drop it in the comments below. We will be pinning the best explanation. So he parlays that military and legal background into a political career, eventually landing in the U.S. Senate in 2003. And fast forward to today, and that seat is suddenly empty.
And that emptiness triggers an immediate, frantic, mechanical process in the U.S. government. Because remember, the partisan balance in the Senate right now is incredibly tight.
Republicans hold a 53-47 majority, right?
Correct. And Graham was currently running for re-election this November, seeking his 5th term. Now, South Carolina state law dictates a very specific sequence of events here. The Republican governor, Henry McMaster, is required to appoint an interim replacement who will serve in Graham's seat until January 3, 2027.
But because we are right in the middle of a high-stakes election year, this isn't just about finding a placeholder, is it? This sets off an absolute scramble.
Oh, a frantic scramble.
Because
the primary elections had already passed. So state officials had to immediately schedule a brand new special primary for August 11th with a potential runoff on August 25th just to find a replacement Republican nominee for the November ballot.
And the winner of that November general election starts a full 6-year term.
Exactly.
So let's focus on that for a second because this is going to be wild. This sudden primary in South Carolina is going to become a brutal proxy war.
Without a doubt.
You have the populist America First wing of the Republican Party on one side and the traditional establishment wing on the other, suddenly fighting over the ideological real estate that Graham just vacated.
Which brings us directly to the core paradox of Lindsey Graham's entire career.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about his relationship with Donald Trump, because to anyone watching from the outside, it gives you intellectual whiplash.
Totally. I mean, let's look at 2016. Graham is running against Trump in the Republican primaries. He goes on national television and calls Trump a race-baiting bigot and completely unfit for office.
Right, and Trump retaliates with equal, if not greater, vitriol. He publicly called Graham an idiot, a lightweight, and in a moment that pretty much defined the chaotic nature of that 2016 primary, Trump literally read Graham's personal cell phone number out loud on live television.
To thousands of cheering supporters.
Right.
Just completely doxed him.
Wait, hold on. So you're telling me Donald Trump, a political figure who was famous for holding intense, long-lasting grudges, just completely forgave a guy who called him a race-baiting bigot on national TV, and Graham just forgot that Trump doxed him to the entire country just because they, played some golf together?
Right. It seems absurd on the surface.
There has to be a deeper political transaction happening there. What did Graham actually offer him to get back in the room?
That is exactly the right question to ask.
Oh.
Because it wasn't about forgiveness at all. It was about utility. Political analysts emphasize that Graham recognized the Republican Party's center of gravity had permanently shifted in 2016. The old establishment was dead.
So it was pure survival.
Survival and strategy. To remain relevant, and more importantly, to keep his hands on the levers of international power that he cared about above all else, he needed direct proximity to the Oval Office. Graham calculated that the insults to the campaign trail were just a sunk cost.
Oh, okay.
He offered Trump something he desperately needed in Washington: establishment legitimacy and legislative navigation.
So he essentially traded past grievances for a seat at the table.
Exactly. He became the transmission in the Republican Party. Trump was this massive revving engine of populist energy, but Graham was the transmission translating that raw power into actual functional policy movement on the ground.
Especially when it came to the courts and foreign affairs.
Yes. Graham became the ultimate Trump whisperer, fiercely defending Trump's Supreme Court nominees like Brett Kavanaugh and advising him on a daily basis.
But we did see that transmission slip into neutral once during the ultimate stress test on January 6th, 2021.
We did, yeah.
After the Capitol was breached, Graham took to the Senate floor and gave this highly theatrical speech. He said, "Trump and I, We've had a hell of a journey. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough.
Right, and at the time it sounded like a definitive history book break.
But it was incredibly brief.
So brief. Graham quickly assessed the political winds, realized the base was not abandoning Trump, and just returned right back to his side. He refused to vote to convict him in the subsequent impeachment trial, and he rapidly endorsed him for the 2024 election.
And the reconciliation was absolute. I mean, following Graham's death this weekend, Trump posted a message saying Graham was like a member of the family, calling him one of the greatest people and senators I have ever known. Trump even ordered U.S. flags to be flown at half-staff across the country to honor him.
It is a staggering testament to his survival instincts. He fundamentally understood that to hold on to global influence, he had to survive domestically first.
And he used that hard-won proximity to Trump to project massive power overseas.
Well, absolutely. For a long time, Graham was part of what Washington insiders called the Three Amigos, alongside the late Senators John McCain and Joe Lieberman.
Right, the interventionists.
Exactly. For decades, they advocated for a highly muscular, interventionist U.S. foreign policy. They fundamentally believed American military might and financial leverage should be actively deployed across the globe to shape outcomes.
But when McCain passed away, Graham was the last amigo standing. And he was standing in a Republican Party that had violently swung toward modern isolationism.
Yeah, that America First wing that Trump championed, they explicitly campaigned on ending forever wars and retreating from foreign entanglements.
Which is the counterintuitive takeaway that makes this entire deep dive so fascinating for me. How did the ultimate institutionalist manage to get an America First president to endorse aggressive international interventions and sweeping foreign sanctions?
It's brilliant, actually. He achieved it by changing the vocabulary.
The vocabulary.
Yeah, foreign policy experts note that Graham essentially served as a highly specialized bridge between the traditional Washington consensus of global alliances and the new populist wave. Graham realized Trump didn't hate foreign intervention intrinsically. He just hated looking weak or feeling like America was getting ripped off.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. So Graham stopped pitching global democracy or nation building, the old neoconservative talking points, and he started pitching American dominance. He argued that projecting sheer power, backing allies aggressively, and isolating adversaries through crushing sanctions was the true way to put America first.
And we saw the tangible results of that translated policy right up until his final hours on Earth, particularly regarding Ukraine and Europe. Reports indicate he had visited Ukraine 10 times since the full-scale invasion in 2022.
Yes. Think about that. While a significant portion of his own party was loudly demanding that the U.S. cut off all funding to Kyiv, Graham was over there reassuring them.
Literally a day before his sudden death, he was in Kyiv meeting directly with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And during that trip, Graham publicly announced that he had successfully secured a green light from Trump's camp to push forward a major package of aggressive sanctions against Russia.
Just think about the mechanics of that. He is in a war zone, brokering a deal between a highly skeptical populist administration back home and a desperate ally on the front lines.
Right.
He was extracting promises and delivering them in real time. That is an immense amount of soft power concentrated in one single 71-year-old man.
It really is. And the international reaction deeply reflects how vital that bridge was. President Zelensky stated he was deeply saddened, calling Graham a true defender of freedom.
And the shockwaves hit Europe just as hard. European leaders recognized him as the primary anchor keeping the U.S. tethered to its historic alliances.
Yeah, I saw NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte called him a powerful advocate for America who actively worked to end the war on favorable terms.
And the EU's Ursula von der Leyen praised him as a determined and fearless leader who fiercely defended transatlantic ties at a time when those ties were under severe domestic pressure in the U.S.
You see an almost identical outpouring of grief from the Middle East, specifically from Israel. For years, Graham was widely regarded as one of their absolute staunchest allies in Washington. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a statement saying Israel had lost one of its greatest friends.
He called him a beloved friend. And reports indicate Netanyahu is taking this so seriously that he's even considering flying to the U.S. personally to attend the funeral.
Wow, that is significant. Furthermore, Israeli President Isaac Herzog expressed that he was shocked and heartbroken, referring to Graham as a beacon of moral clarity for the U.S.-Israel partnership.
Because whenever there was friction between the U.S. administration and Israeli leadership, Graham was frequently the back-channel diplomat, smoothing things over and ensuring military and diplomatic support remained ironclad.
But to maintain our objective lens here on this deep dive, we have to look at the other side of the geopolitical coin. The exact same muscular interventionist policies that made him a hero in Kyiv and Jerusalem made him deeply reviled by U.S. adversaries.
Oh, absolutely. Graham's stance on Iran, for instance, was notoriously aggressive and uncompromising.
Right.
For years, he vigorously opposed the Obama-era nuclear deal, arguing it just enriched a hostile regime. He heavily promoted policies aimed at totally isolating the country financially, and he frequently and openly advocated for direct U.S. military strikes against Iranian infrastructure. He viewed Tehran as the root cause of instability in the Middle East.
Consequently, the reaction from Iranian media to his sudden death was starkly different. I was reading the translated transcript from Iranian state television, and it is jarring to see the contrast. An anchor there literally announced his death by celebrating it during a live broadcast.
Yeah, I saw that.
They referred to him as a warmongering and anti-Iranian U.S. senator, and openly stated on air that he had gone to hell.
That is their specific perspective. We do not endorse or validate that stance, but highlighting it is crucial because it perfectly illustrates the polarizing massive footprint he left on the global stage.
Exactly.
You have Ukrainian and Israeli leadership mourning him as an irreplaceable historic defender of their national survival, and you have Iranian media celebrating his sudden demise as the permanent removal of a primary antagonist. We are laying out these completely opposing international viewpoints based on the reports to show you the sheer scale of the geopolitical space he occupied.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for you listening to this right now. We are looking at a fragile, incredibly complex network of international alliances. For the last several years, that entire network heavily relied on this one single senator from South Carolina to act as a translator, a bridge, and a transmission between a highly unpredictable America First administration and the rest of the world.
He was the architect of a hybrid foreign policy that kept historical alliances alive in a populist era.
And now that this bridge has suddenly collapsed into a sinkhole, the burning question is what happens to the foreign policy machinery in Washington?
It's all up in the air now.
Will Donald Trump maintain his hardline foreign policy after the death of Lindsey Graham, or will he soften his stance now that he has lost his primary legislative backbone? Share your views on this in the comment section. And that wraps up our discussion for today. Browse our show for more global insights, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the red shift. See you next time on the Commute Commentary.